So there were several times this year when I felt alone. How about you? How many of you at some point this year either were or knew someone who felt alone? Show of hands. Well, loneliness is actually a lot more serious than we think. And in fact, for some, it's actually even detrimental. See, 1 in 5 Americans, when asked how lonely they were yesterday, reported a lot of the time. And loneliness is also bad for our health. See, loneliness contributes to deaths by suicide. Did you know every 11 minutes, 1 American dies by suicide? Part of that as a result of being alone. But did you also know that you're likely to die from loneliness than you are from smoking 15 packs of cigarette a day? So how do we address loneliness and the health consequences that it causes? I believe we can do that through spiritual, social connectedness. The type of connection that grounds us in our humanity through our connection between ourselves and our spirit and our mind. So when we think about how we are connected with one another, we are in one of the most connected times we have ever been in history. We think about technologies such as Facebook and other apps that allow us to have 500, hell, even 10,000 friends, acquaintances, people we call our connections or followers. Technology allows us to be able to connect with others online, in virtual communities, connect with our families instantly, even around the world. Yet, despite having such great access to technology and connections, many of us still feel lonely. Why? That is because some of these friendships, even online or in communities, while they are helpful, are not always rooted in deep connections. In fact, some of them can even feel like they are at the surface level or even transactional. And this is what I believe is at the heart of loneliness. But spirituality can address loneliness and its health consequences by allowing us to connect with our deeper humanity. And in fact, I believe that we are connected through all one mind and one spirit. And I'm not the only person who believes this. See, 70% of Americans believe that they are spiritual. And in fact, 83% believe that we all have a soul and a spirit in addition to our body. And when I talk about spirituality, I want to be clear first that it's not religion. See, religion refers to an organized set of beliefs, rituals, and practices that are grounded in specific doctrines. And I must acknowledge that for some, religion has even caused emotional harm. Religion has even caused polarization in the country, and sometimes have caused divisions rather than connect us. With spirituality, it's more intentionally inclusive and open. It invites us to connect with a divine source, but it also invites us to connect with humanity, to connect with nature, or to even connect with our deeper self. And spirituality, it's real. It's something that you can actually detect through physiological changes in our body. For instance, studies have shown that when people engage in certain tasks that are spiritual, we can detect changes that lights up in their brain. Spirituality is also helpful in terms of heart rate or blood pressure, and even biological aging. So, why is spirituality also important when we connect to both our spirit and our minds? Well, to do so, I have to take you back to Trinidad and Tobago, where the first sign that spiritual social connectedness was real came to me. This is me here, as you can see. Growing up in Trinidad and Tobago, I lived in a neighborhood that was considered by many rough, right? High crime and violence. And as a kid, I always wanted to go out and play with the kids that were in my neighborhood, some of who were older than I am. And whenever I would go out to play, I would sneak through my grandmother's house And I may have evaded my grandmother, but just as I was about to get out, my great-grandmother would come and she would catch me and she would say, "You're going to play with those friends. They will take you, but they won't bring you back." Okay, so in English, she said that those friends will take you, but they won't bring you back. See, to me, that lesson was the first sign of something not just about connecting with individuals, but it was something about the friendships that we have to be intentional about choosing. So the first thing that I learned from that is that there is something that we can use to identify the people that's in our group, and that is called discernment. See, my great-grandmother had great discernment. She would be able to look at one person or a group of people and tell who amongst this group would be harmful and lead to trouble. As a young kid, I didn't want to listen to my great-grandmother's advice. In fact, I couldn't really appreciate what she was saying. Only until I got as an adult and I started to reflect on what she was saying, I understand two things. First is that when we think about who we are connected to, that becomes important. That's the first insight. Who we let into our network can determine our destiny. In some cases, that may be to success or failure, and in many cases, to life or even death. The second insight that I gained from that experience is that we have to employ discernment to help us decide who are these people that we should let into our networks. So we have to think deeply what it is about that person that resonates with me. How do I feel about this particular connection? And this is what guides us towards what I call spiritual social connectedness, the discernment that comes through from our connection to individuals. So what else is important for us when we think about spiritual social connectedness? What's important is to think about the fact that spirituality is real. And the power comes when we combine spirit and connections. I'll share with you a bit about one of the things that I've learned from the work that we have going on in the lab. And that is that when we combine people into connections, we are able to determine and be able to distinguish who we should invite into our connections and study the types of impact that it has on our health. So to do so, I'll share with you one of the things that we've done in our lab at Yale. And what we did was combine about 4,000 people's responses. These are people who we asked across America, what is your spirituality? How do you connect with others? And what we've done is take the responses from those 4,000 people and identified 4 distinct groups. What I'm going to share with you today is just 2 out of those groups. The first, which is the bar on top in yellow, these are people who reported high levels of spirituality and high levels of social connectedness. The second group, lined in blue, these are people who reported just below average social connectedness and somewhat lower spirituality. Take 1 second and think about which group you might fall into. So what we did next is compare these groups across measures of depression and purpose in life. And what we found was astonishing. We found that individuals who were in the group with high spiritual social connectedness had 3 points lower depression than individuals who were in the other group. Then we compared them on purpose in life, and we found that those who had higher levels of spiritual social connectedness had higher purpose in life. So what does this all tell us? Well, first, it tells us that spiritual social connectedness isn't just a nice fuzzy concept or something abstract. It actually has real implications for our health and for our purpose in life. So, what are some of the benefits, or how do you combine spirituality and social connectedness? Well, to do so, I'll share one more story with you of why spiritual social connectedness became real for me. See, there was a very difficult time in my life a few years ago. It was a period of intense sadness, intense despair, intense anger. And during that time, I had a lot of friends around, people from the groups in church, family, and others to support me. But even during that time, I still withdrew from people. See, I had a lot of connections, but there was still something that was difficult getting through that particular situation. But the magic happened, or the thing that changed, became when people was joined with prayer, connection was joined with spirituality. See, there were certain people in my network who started praying for me. In fact, some of the people even enlisted their mom and their church to start praying for me. And what happened was a deep sense of resolve. See, something changed within me just knowing that there was a group of people who was carrying me. But it wasn't all people who prayed, and I recognize that for some, prayer may not be meaningful, or it may not even be something that you resonate with. So there were others who were helping me through their own experience with divorce and their own experience, and it helped channel something inside me to know that it's going to be okay. This is just a time in your life, and you will get through it, and not only will you get through it, but you'll get through it better and together. So that experience brought two insights to me that I would leave with you today for why spiritual social connectedness is important. The first insight is that we must intentionally cultivate and build spiritually aligned communities. And all that means is people who share similar faith values with you, people who share similar worldviews. For me, that may be people who are strong in faith, but for you, that may be people who you share a deep sense of gratitude towards the earth or the universe with. But what really matters is having people in our corners who can help us during that time where we're experiencing intense pain. And that also means helping individuals and being in a space where we can also show up for others. The second insight is that spiritual, social, connected communities has a network effect. And all that means is that the people who started praying for me started bringing others into the network, so some that I didn't even know. And again, that deep sense of others showing up for you, holding you in thoughts and mind, really helped me get through that intense pain and the period that I was going through. So, how do we practice spiritual social connectedness? I'm sure some of you are asking. I've already shared with you that you can be in community with others and also experience loneliness. And I've already shared with you that there is some benefit to combining spirituality into the way that we socially connect with others. So how do we do this? Well, I would like to invite you all in a contemplative journey with me, regardless of where you are in your walk in life. If you would allow me, please join us with your eyes closed as I walk you through 3 steps and how we can all do this together. The first step is that we want to cultivate our own spiritual energies. I believe this is what my great-grandmother used, that insight that allowed her to help distinguish the friends that I should be around or the friends that would cause harm and cause pain. Think about one great quality about yourself, a strength, and now give gratitude for that quality. For example, for me, I'm so thankful and grateful now that I'm a kind person, whatever that is for you. The second step, think about one person. Share that spiritual energy out. Think about one person, a group of people, or perhaps someone who you haven't spoken to recently. Think about that person, whatever they might be going through in life right now, where they might deserve some compassion or some love. And send some of that compassion or love out to that person or group of people. You may think, whatever you're going through right now, just know that you're on my thoughts and I'm sending you love and sending you thoughts. See, that's where I believe we begin to become more connected to one another. That's when we are not just showing up, but we're also holding people deep in our thoughts and sharing the best of them that allows them to feel us even though they may be far from us. This is where spiritual social connectedness begins to happen. And then the third and final step is to think about who in your communities that you would love to continue to build that spiritual connection to. Think about people in your networks, those who you may want to show up for. And if there isn't anyone that immediately comes to mind, think about someone or group of people who you would like to show up for you. And I'll tell you why that matters. Just this week, one friend invited me to pray for her colleague who was going to have surgery. A second friend called and asked me to keep her husband in prayer as he recovers from a medical procedure. So I believe that these friends were able to feel comfortable and trust me to invite them to pray for their families because we connected on a level that was discerning. We collected on a level that allows us to be able to channel the deepest sense of caring for a human being. So now that we are coming to the close of our experience, please put your hands on your heart and just thank yourself for showing up today and for the people in the room with you who also showed up. So as I close today, I ask, what if we all practice spiritual social connection? What if we all are able to hold each other in thoughts and in our minds, and we are able to think about the best, not only for ourselves, but for our neighbor? As you open your eyes, think about what if we all left here today practicing spiritual social connectedness. I believe that if we do, we will have and contribute to a community where we trust, we build connections, and we care for each other in such a way that we can eradicate loneliness, the health consequences that it causes, and build communities and policies that strengthen the fabric of our community. Thank you all.